Oh man, I am messed up. Like, I feel super gross. I've been sick for like a long time. So if I sound like extra annoying for this video, I do apologize. My nose is all fucked up and like my throat and stuff. Drinking mineral water like a yuppie trying to feel better. My stomach's all jacked. But anyway, like I wouldn't like come on here, at death's door if I didn't have something fucking super important to tell everybody, right? About the new Ghostbusters movie. Fuck, man. That I just saw the trailer, right? I saw it yesterday, and then it's like, okay, let me sleep on that. Let me not like. There's my little kitty. There's Pantera right there, coming to snuggle, just trying to help me feel better. It's like her job. Anyway, so the new Ghostbusters movie, right? I saw the trailer yesterday. I hope you guys can hear this because I can't talk very loud. Um, yeah, I saw the trailer yesterday and I had like a real negative reaction to it. But I figured it was just like fucking like whatever, you know what I mean? I figured it was just kind of like the shock, of a new cast and like a new, like of course I, for some reason, I'm just like really against like most movies that come out. Like when I see the trailer for them, I'm like, oh fuck you, you're gonna be terrible, you know, Spectre, The Martian, shit like that, you know. And I'm always right too. When I say a movie's gonna be terrible, I'm never wrong, or very rarely. But so I'm like I'm gonna chill out. I'm gonna chill for a while. I'm gonna sleep on this. I'm not feeling my best. Oh man, shit's not going well. So I'm gonna give this one a minute. I'm gonna watch it again tomorrow, and I'm gonna come to an actual conclusion about what I think, my predictions for this most controversial of films, because for some reason you know anything that has any fucking women in it, like there's got to be some kind of weird internet controversy. You know what I mean? Everybody's got to be like, oh my god, you know, feminist warriors are trying to fuck us up or whatever, which is bullshit. In this case, anyway, I don't like, I'm not going to say in every case that's bullshit, but like in this case, at the very least, it's a marketing thing, but it's not pandering, and I'll get to that. But, okay, check it out. So I watched it again just like recently, try to get my head together around it. And I don't know why like I'm having such a bad reaction too, because like I do really like the first two Ghostbusters movies. They're awesome, but a shitty reboot isn't gonna hurt them. You know what I mean? They'll still be there. You know. They're like in a semi-permanent format. They're like there's cuts of those movies out, and there's like VHSs and fucking DVDs of them flying around. So it's never like the original two good Ghostbusters movies are never gonna be lost to time. But anyway, still, it's weird. I had kind of a weird emotional reaction to that. So I'm looking at this movie, the trailer for this fucking movie, and I'm just like, oh man, I'm seeing a lot of problems. I'm seeing a lot of problems already, like emerging. Like maybe. I mean, the trailer's not, like honestly, it's like 2 minutes of like 3 scenes of the movie or whatever. You know, trailers are right, and of course, trailers are like they're a distinct work from like the actual film. You know what I mean? Like they're their own text pretty much, especially at this point because they make a lot of trailers for a lot of demographics, shit like that. The art of movie trailer making is like an art into itself. You know what I mean? That's like actually like distinct from the rest of the cinema. It has something to do with editing and all that. But You know, it's not like a, it's not necessarily a reflection on the movie, but there's a lot of shit in this trailer that it's fucking raising a few weird red flags for me a little bit, man. Okay, so for one thing, I think this is the primary thing that I'm concerned about with this iteration of the Ghostbusters franchise, right? Is the first Ghostbusters, the best one. You know, 2 was alright. But, you know, I think I like 1 more. But, like, it's got a lot to do with at least the aesthetic of, like, weird fiction from, like, the 20s and 30s. Like, H.P. Lovecraft shit, like Robert E. Howard. You know, like, all the guys who were, like, writing, like, weird supernatural horror stories and like fantasy and like weird shit back in the day, you know, like weird crime novels and stuff, adventures, you know. The first Ghostbusters movie has a lot to do with that because like pretty much in every one of those stories, you know, they feel like they're really well researched. They feel like even though like a ton of weird shit's happening in them, you know, they feel like they're written by people who know what the fuck they're talking about. You know what I mean? Even though like the stuff that takes place like within the story doesn't really like have anything to do with like any like real occult shit, like generally, or like real like demonology or anything. But it feels like it's people who know what they're talking about, and they took the aesthetic from, you know, like actual like works on those subjects and like used them in their own, you know, fiction, right? So like all like the weird books and shit from H.P. Lovecraft stuff, and like all like the weird gods, and like all the like the Robert E. Howard, like all the weird like cultural like anthropology and like all the strange like archaeological crap, you know, and like stuff about like ancient civilizations and all that. You know, I think who's the guy who wrote The King in Yellow? Oh man, was it? I think his name was Algernon Blackwood. It was he has an awesome name. I can't remember exactly who he is. I'm gonna have to look it up later. But like same thing with that, you know what I mean? So it's like they're kind of like taking like actual like folk shit and like stuff that like people kind of, you know, are kind of like interested in, and they're kind of like using the aesthetic of that and like making it like their own for like their own purposes. And the original Ghostbusters totally does that too, and that's one of the reasons like it feels like grounded in like just kind of like a deeper like mythos, even though like, you know, it's not like Gozer the Gozerian and all that shit, like, you know, like that's not around, you know, nobody fucking thinks of that, you know. But because like I'm pretty sure Dan Aykroyd and his brother like worked on the screenplay for Ghostbusters together, you know, and like I'm also pretty sure that they're both into like some fucking bizarre weirdness, you know what I mean? They're like, I know like his brother is like a full on like paranormal like parapsychologist or whatever, like he's like really heavily into that shit. And then like fucking Dan Aykroyd's like into like spiritualism, or like he's at least interested in it, you know. He's interested in a lot of cool shit, like fucking like old blues music and like criminology and all this fucking stuff. But like he's like interested in all that stuff, you know. He's interested. He's like part of MUFON, you know. He's like interested in like UFOs and shit, and like fucking like psychic stuff and like spiritualism. So, you know, and then like Harold Ramis was also working on the screenplay, and he's super good at like research and shit. Like everything he writes like feels like really well researched. Like it feels like it's like grounded in like some kind of like, if not like, you know, actual shit, then like he just kind of look stuff up and get the aesthetic of it right, you know, and like then convey that in the screenplay, right? Right. You know, so like these guys are also into it. like they have some kind of grounding in like the weird shit that the same like weird fiction people from like the 20s and 30s had, you know. So like that grounds like Ghostbusters and that like same kind of feel, that same kind of like spooky, like actual feel, you know, like, and it comes up like a lot, like even in the first like scenes of the movie, like they're doing you have like Bill Murray's character fucking like doing all those weird like MK Ultra esque like kind of like remote viewing like weird like CIA style like torture tests to people at like the university and shit. You know, like stuff like that like feels like it is like a kind of like a legit thing. You know, it feels like I could pick up like go on like some conspiracy website and find out that they were actually doing shit like that in the 60s. You know what I mean? To make people like try to spy like Nazi fucking Soviet like launch codes out, you know, with like their like mines or whatever. You know, like I'm sure shit like that was going down, and it feels like it was. You know what I mean? And like Dan Aykroyd's all excited about like psychic shit, so he's probably heard of, you know, like stuff like that going on. Like that weird test with the cards is like a real like test that they actually use to test people's shit with that. You know, and it's stuff like that. It's like little weird stuff like that. Like when they start out like actually doing like ghost shit, and the accountant guy gets possessed, man. He's telling that fucking story, right? And that story sounds like some straight up shit that you would find in like some just like weird texts and stuff from like those like kind of like strange fucking times, or like, you know, some shit from like, I don't know, like the Lesser Keys of Solomon, or like some kind of like the Black Pullet or whatever, you know, like some like weird fucking, or like, I don't know, like, you know, like Hermes Trismegistus like talking about shit like that, you know, or like some like weird like fucking like Babylonian fucking like tablet, because like this dude's going on about like all this weird shit, like people suffering in the fucking belly of the almighty Torg or whatever. You know, and he's just fucking freaking out and saying a whole bunch of like the fucking, what was it, the second rectification of the Valdrani, or like whatever, like all this weird shit that he's talking about like sounds legit, you know. And it sounds legit because people, well, like took the aesthetic of like shit that was actually like written, you know, and like came up with their own like weird fucking like books, and they wrote a bunch of fucking. Okay, man, so I'm back. This is a super weird video because yeah, last time I was filming this, I had some weird technical problem or whatever, and I had to stop, and I was gonna get back to it that night, but I just like all this weird shit happened, and I just totally didn't do it. So yeah, this is like 3 days later, actually. So jump cut to 3 days later. We're still talking about the same thing. We're still talking about Ghostbusters, right? It's still based on the trailer. Now the international trailer's out too. The international trailer has had time to come out since, you know, I started this fucking shit. But anyway, based on the trailer, it's a terrible movie, right? And as far as I recall, I was talking about why. Okay, so it's the original it has all these elements of, like, it has stylistic elements in common with like weird fiction from the 30s, and this new one, it doesn't look like it's gonna do that, you know, like the there's no you know, it doesn't look like there's any like interest or research into like any of the subject matter going on, you know what I mean, or like any kind of attempt to even like give it the same kind of meat that like Lovecraft stuff has, which is one of the fucking like crazy charms of like the first Ghostbusters. Even like the first time I saw it, I wasn't aware of like, you know, Robert E. Howard or like H.P. Lovecraft or anything like that, but there was just something to it that felt like, you know, it was kind of like a living like world with a weird history, and like all this weird shit was happening. Like they had, you know, architects who went to World War One and freaked out and decided to summon fucking Babylonian gods and shit like that. You know, it's like it's a big deal. Like there's a whole ton of shit. It feels like it's based on like a whole ton of shit that's probably, you know, it actually isn't. But like same thing with like Lovecraft stuff. You know, it feels like there's like a lot of meat behind it, and that's not, you know, necessarily the case with this new thing. And it's weird too because another reason this movie's gonna be terrible, right? I'm pretty convinced this movie's gonna be terrible. It's like even the director of it, what's his name? John Fig, James Fig, something like that. Probably gonna end up looking it up. I can't look it up on IMDb because I'm using the fucking app. Ooh, that's gonna look weird. To you know, frame up the shot and everything like that. Like there's a lot of lighting going on in here because my fucking apartment's dark as shit. I got a bounce board like right over there. Like I'm gonna figure this shit out. Either that or I'm just gonna start doing these during the day. But like I got a bounce board off screen there, which you can't see. It's not there because cinematic space. Nothing exists outside the frame. Woo! There's a tea bag behind my little skull, but you'd never know. It doesn't exist because you can't see it within the frame. Anyway. What the fuck was I talking about? I started fucking freaking out. Oh yeah, okay, so the director himself, right, has like admitted in interviews and shit like that he was super worried about doing a Ghostbusters sequel. You know, like he didn't, because this was originally, it was supposed to be a sequel. It was supposed to be like part 3 or whatever, and it was just gonna cap off and like be a trilogy. But he has like he's been like cited as like saying like he didn't think he could do it justice, and he was like worried about the fans getting mad at him and shit. You know, okay, so just fucking don't make a Ghostbusters movie. Give it to somebody who actually cares about stuff. You know what I mean? This is the same kind of shit that happened with like Spectre. You know, they give it to the Sam Mendes motherfucker, and he doesn't care about like, you know, the source material. He's trying to make like a different movie. You know, he's trying to make like his interpretation of a James Bond movie, which is shit. Same thing is gonna happen with this one. You know what I mean? Because like this guy doesn't give a fuck. The first Ghostbusters, like people, you know, Aykroyd like worked on that script, and like he brought fucking like Harold Ramis and fucking Ivan Reitman in there, you know what I mean, to work on it with him, and everybody was super excited and like on board to fucking do it. But like this one's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. You know, I don't want to fuck around with this franchise. But he like took it probably for the money, because like everything in this fucking movie just feels like a great big payoff. You know what I mean? It feels like a Ghostbusters brand fucking stamp of approval, kind of like give me your money kind of a thing, right? So you know, so he decided to switch it up and make it kind of a sort of a reboot, and like, you know, have all girls in it, because, you know, that's fine, whatever. I mean, I don't really care. Outside the fact, like, I don't think it's pandering to do that, but almost feels like the writer and the director and the producers of this knew it was going to be bad, so they worked in like a built-in rhetorical strategy to the film to keep people from criticizing it. You know what I mean? Because now it's like, because, you know, we can't have any girls in a movie now without having it be all predictable, you know what I mean? Or, like, not predictable. What the fuck? Political. We can't have women in a movie without it being political, like, for some crazy-ass reason. Just because of the dumbass society we live in, you know, like, you decide to, like, fucking, like, stick a girl in a role, stick a, you know, give one for the ladies there. Suddenly it's, like, some big fucking deal, and, like, everybody's, like, debating it and shit on the internet, right? And I think they knew this, you know? But I don't think they're not really trying to market it as their marketing strategies. It's fucking weird. It's cool. It's like very interesting, but it feels like what they were trying to do maybe is like, you know, we'll put all women in it, and that way, you know, nobody can criticize it or else they'll look like an asshole. You know what I mean? And we can say they're only criticizing it because of like that one factor, even though they're gonna like shit out like a lazy movie. You know what I mean? It's not gonna be good, and it's not gonna be, it's gonna be the movie that the director wanted to avoid making. But now there's gonna be, like an automatic built-in rhetorical strategy to like refute people's like criticisms of the movie. You're gonna be like, oh, you're just fucking misogynist or whatever. And it's weird too because like people who actually care that like it's a Ghostbusters with women in it, and are mad about it, they don't care if you call them like misogynists. They're totally they wear that shit with like pride. You know what I mean? They're like weird fucking people who like you're just like super steeped in like girl hate. You know what I mean? They're like, nah, fuck it. It's ladies. Ugh, gross. And so they're gonna say shit anyway, and they're gonna say the shit that is gonna like propagate the myth that anybody who's against this movie is instantly like a fucking like a woman hater, like the fucking Little Rascals Misogyny Club or whatever. It's hard to remember. But yeah. But I think like it's so they've got like mainstream critics on lock because they can't hate this movie. Because if they do, they're gonna look like assholes. Nobody's gonna trust them. It's gonna fuck up their like, career. Internet critics, whatever. They can say whatever the fuck they want, essentially, which is cool because, like mainstream press is kind of dying when it comes to like movie reviews. Anyway, like not a lot of people really give a shit anymore. Too much, And then there's like academic critics, which are awesome, but they're probably not gonna fucking touch this for another few years. That always seems to be the case with like movies like this. Like people pick them up and start talking about them like years down the road. Like suddenly they're art. Okay, whatever. I don't give a fuck. But and like it's super strange. Like the way they're doing that. It's like this real divisive kind of marketing thing. So now they've got like a built-in audience of people who are gonna see it because it's making really vocal guys who hate women mad, so they they have to go see it, right? And then there's like a certain other sub like category of people who are gonna see it to prove that they're not one of those guys. And then there's the mainstream critics who aren't gonna have anything bad to say about it because they're afraid of like coming off like the hate, like progress in women and shit. Even though that might not be the case, it might be a shitty movie. You know what I mean? But then there's like, the whole sphere of, the internet, like YouTube shit like this, where, fuck it, I'm say whatever I want, And like what I want to say is that it's bad news. It's a bad rhetorical strategy. This movie, super weird, right? Right? It's super strange to do it that way. Because, like, it's fine, like, fucking pander to a market if you want, but, like, this is some seriously, like, deep, weird marketing voodoo that they're fucking, like, putting down on all of this, and it's strange. I'm not offended by it. I'm like, really intrigued by this kind of, like, just this weird fucking, like, psychic kung fu they put down on people all the time to, like, sell movies and shit. Oh, man. But, like, all that being said, this Feig guy, he has come up with some good movies that I fucking like. And they've all featured Melissa McCarthy. Problem with Melissa McCarthy, right? She can't carry a movie. Like, it sucks, but it's true. Like, fucking, like, any movie where, like, she's, like, the focal point, there's no way in hell. She can't do it. Like, I think it's just, like, the way, like, people try to direct her and stuff like that. And, like, it's just, it ends up getting lazy. It's like, Melissa McCarthy's gross looking and, like, loud, so that's the comedy. But, like, when she's in a movie with a good director, like Feig, because he is a good director. I'm not denying it. Like, he was fucking Bridesmaids, I think. It's like a fucking like a brilliant movie, right? Like I really dig that one. Actually, like on a lot of levels. Like it's super cool. Like this is one of the things like Feig likes to do him and like Kristen Wiig like wrote that thing, right? And some other lady too. They all get together and wrote that one, and it's awesome because it like kind of like explodes the conventions of that genre and shit like that. And it's like, it's like it's kind of like a meditation on genre and like on like the expectations of like gender and film and shit like that. So like it's like a nasty ass weird gross out comedy, and it's like a bromance but with girls. It's like one of those because it came out at the same time as like Apatow was doing all his shit, and like bromance was like a big thing, So like the main character is getting married or whatever, or like the two characters in fucking there's the lady who's getting married, and then there's Kristen Wiig, who's like her fuck up friend who's just crazy and shit. She tried to have a bakery and it didn't work, or whatever. Like they've got this bromance going, and that's like the entire plot. And then she has that B story with fucking Chris O'Dowd, who is awesome. And like I like Chris O'Dowd's character a lot because like normally in like romantic comedies like this, like the main character gets like somebody who's super hot, at the end, or like super rich or whatever. But like he's just kind of like he's Chris O'Dowd. He's not really, he's not unattractive, I guess, but like he's more charismatic than that. Like he's just kind of some guy in the movie. He's just like a fucking like a cop or whatever, like an Irish cop. That's great, man. So like that movie's really good. It throws the gross out humor in there. Like kind of like it like proves that like it's like I like seeing women like act on that level of like comedy. You know what I mean? Because like I know like fucking girls are fucking disgusting. They're just like dudes. They think the same like nasty scatological humor is like fucking hilarious. They just can't admit it in public because of society. Whatever. But yeah, that one was awesome. Fucking Melissa McCarthy was awesome in that. Kristen Wiig was awesome in that. And they're both together with the same director and like one of the same writers for this movie. So like, I don't know, man. If they can make that synergy work, then use that to carry the movie, then it'll turn out good. But that's like their one fucking slim hope to make this real, like nothing about the trailers. Nothing looks good. Like maybe not. There's one thing that looks cool, right? There's like a lot of their Ghostbusting gear. Looks like it came from the two cartoon series, Real Ghostbusters and Extreme Ghostbusters. Like as I recall, like I haven't seen these in like fucking like years, right? They're super old. They came out in the 90s. I don't want to go how old I am. Super old, but as I recall, in Extreme Ghostbusters, like there was like a Mexican dude with a goatee, and he had like the proton pack thing that like his little emitter was like a pistol or whatever. I think, as I recall, and then like in the trailer you see that happening. So that's kind of cool. I like that they might be calling back to like that, and like the designs of the ghosts. I'm not a fan of it. It's too like the original film. Like the ghosts were either like orby, and just kind of like weird, like kind of veil-y sheets and shit, and they were just kind of like flying around, or they were like full on like fucking like rotten dead people, that they just kind of. I don't know exactly like how they did it, like rear projection or whatever, or like fucking like compositing, or like I don't know, but like the ghosts in fucking the original Ghostbusters like pretty goddamn terrifying. Like a lot of them did. Like the one in the library looked real bad. There's like a cab driver who's just a fucking like a skeleton with like a little bit of meat and hair on him, And like they had the cartoony one. They had like the slammer guy, but like even he looked like just maniacally frightening. Like in a way, he was like he was cute and shit, but he had that fucking face that was just like looking at you with that fucking weird maw, shoving hot dogs into it and stuff. Super strange, right? Especially for like young me. I was like, oh fuck, that's what ghosts look like. Yep, like, but this movie, like, they're super cartoony, like I can't imagine getting like any kind of a spooky feeling from it, like any of those, like if from the trailer especially, like there's like just these weird kind of like cartoon blobby ghost guys like floating down the street, and there's a dude with like crazy legs, and he's like woo, and he's just like walking by the fucking camera and shit, and he like I think he might actually like wave at it, and he's like hey, you know, he's like some fucking he's like a big fucking Uncle Sam from like a parade or something that died, I guess. I don't know. You know, stilt walkie guys. That seems to be what it's like, man. I don't know. And the comedy, at least the comedy present in the trailer, not like it's that kind of modern comedy. Like I know, like I sound like an asshole saying modern comedy is bad, but like there's like a certain like kind of delivery a lot of people use lately. That's like it's just kind of some uncomfortable shit happens and it goes on for like a long time, but it's not super uncomfortable. It's just like ooh, you know. We both tried to go through the door at the same time, and now, like, and they just fucking, like, point at the door, and they're like, you first, blah, 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 for, like, fucking, like, 20 minutes. You know what I mean? It's not that funny. Right? You know, it's like, I kind of get, like, the shock value of, like, kind of people, like, in a scene in a movie trying to act all slick and shit, and then it doesn't work, you know? Which, like, might be where they're coming from a little bit, but fucking like jokes always they just go on like way too long. There's like this kind of editing thing that's weird about modern comedies. They just kind of hold on to shit for like a really long time. Like there's a scene from the trailer where McCarthy gets possessed by some fucking ghost, and like the Lady Winston Zedmore, right, slapping the shit out of her and like screaming all this stuff. You know, but like even in the trailer, it goes on for like a really, really long time, and I'm sure like in the theater, there's gonna be like a ton of like screaming in the face and fucking like slapping, and you know she's gonna be fine, and it's gonna continue. I don't know, but it's comedy that needs editing, you know. So yeah, man, I'm not looking forward to this one. I don't think it's gonna be very good at all. I might not even go see it. I might treat it like these like other cash grab ass remakes that have been coming out lately, and just fucking just like if my friends recommend it to me, I'll go. But you know, I'm not gonna be there on like opening night, like giving them my money. So yeah, dude, I'm not looking forward to this one. I'm not looking forward to the internet backlash of people who like, you know, trying to defend it with like politics and like people like being super mad and like calling it pandering and you know talking about like raping their childhood, which is fucking super tragic. I hate it when people say that they're raping my childhood. Fuck off, man. Just calm down. Like it doesn't hurt the two good movies if it's bad, you know. We'll still have those, you know. In fact, we'll like the people who are aware of the two good movies will be even more awesome because you know, anybody who's not in the future, right, 30 years from now, when like people just kind of go to the latest Ghostbusters movie as their fucking, you know, their mainstay for what that franchise was, you know, they're gonna get schooled when they get shown the good one. But yeah, so I'm done. I'm out. I'm done talking about this. This is probably like 40 minutes long. Just me talking about a fucking movie trailer. Why I don't like it. But, okay. Oh, and, dude who plays Thor is on it. He's, they gender swapped the secretary lady, too. And he's in it. But, once again, like, he's only in the international trailer. And he doesn't seem to be doing a very good job of being, like, the dude version of that lady. Because she was awesome. But, yeah, it seems like maybe he has too many lines in the movie, like he has too much interaction, at least in the trailers. I don't know. Maybe not in the movie, maybe he'll fucking pull it out, but I'm not gambling on it. You know, if this is good, fucking awesome, but I have a feeling it's not going to be. Okay, now I'm really done.